Hard Money is dedicated to shine light on Bitcoiners helping to grow adoption in their local communities. Right now, the current Bitcoin price is $19,238. $1 could get you 5,198 sats right now. And the current block height is 308. So I just want to start doing this podcast to kind of bring light on Bitcoiners running meetups across the country and maybe even globally one day. Just over the meetups that I've been to, I've met so many great people, and generally everybody running meetups just has a genuine passion for Bitcoin and really wants to help the adoption. So with that, just trying to go around and meet a bunch of Bitcoiners. Unfortunately, I'm not able to travel around all the time with working and everything. So this is my opportunity to try to get to know people and what they're doing in their community and just building networks across the country. And that way, you know, if somebody's traveling, we could be like, hey, go this direction. So for today, we're going to welcome Billy from the Bay Area Bitcoiners out in San Francisco, Oakland, San Jose, that area. So Billy, welcome, and thank you for coming on today.
Thanks for having me. I wrote back to you right away. I think this is great. I'll talk to any Bitcoiner. I think any Bitcoiner will talk to any other Bitcoiner anytime.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like, what are you doing? Like, no, I got a live stream at 9 a.m.
Yep, I know. And that's the thing, just, man, anytime you have a conversation with a Bitcoiner, there's so many smart people out there. It's just a learning opportunity for myself. You know, I get to grow as a Bitcoiner. I'm open to different ideas. I'm open to have my ideas be challenged, and ultimately it helps me grow in my journey and helps me grow those along with me. So yeah, I love what I get in return from talking with other Bitcoiners, and it's something that a lot of people lack. And once they start building those relationships, man, their passion for Bitcoin just gets even stronger.
I mean, for sure, there's friends that I have that are, you know, on Twitter or Telegram or whatever, that I know them from Bitcoin. I know them from meetups. But if they're in town, I'm going to invite them over as though I've known them for years. And in many ways I have, right? Maybe not that face-to-face relationship, except for when I met them either at an event or at a meetup. But then just because there's so many things in common, either in just the vernacular, right? Conversations that you can have with each other that you kind of can't have with your, not that you can't have with your normie friends. It just takes a while. It's like cribbage, right?
Oh,
yeah. If you're somewhere and you want to play cribbage, if someone already knows the rules, like, you're fucking in, let's go. So if doesn't know the rules, you're like, I don't feel like teaching you today. Like, this is going to be too long.
Oh yeah. There's certain days where it's like, okay, you know what? I'll just keep going at you. And then some days it's, I'm going to save my breath today.
The other good thing about the sort of the meetup community and the conversations are they can split, one of two ways, where, like, one, they can be very technical. So if you're lucky enough, we have at some of our meetups some highly technical members, people, friends, and you can just sit there and listen as they're walking you through the UTXO set and why XYZ with Lightning. Or you can sort of have, I don't want to call it a lighter conversation, a less technical conversation, about monetary policy or politics, where it's a little more over beers, loosey-goosey, but it makes for sort of any meetup, no matter who's going to be around, you're going to ultimately have a good conversation.
Yeah, absolutely. So just give a little background to yourself, how long you've been into Bitcoin and why you started doing the Bay Area Bitcoiners group.
Yeah. I found out about Bitcoin I found the wrong things out. How do I say this? I began not understanding Bitcoin in 2014, 2015. And I only know that because a friend of mine has the chats where we were going back and forth being like, what's some Bitcoins? and absolutely just had no technical understanding of it. I would have 100% and did explain to people as though it was, mining was like searching for prime numbers. And and these Bitcoins actually existed like as prime numbers out in this, I guess I would have called it a metaverse now, but like out there, and you had to go find them. That was that's how I described mining back then. But I didn't do anything. I wasn't, I wasn't early in any kind of great way, but just sort of interested in that way. And then towards 2016, 2017, I started hosting Crypto Monday meetups, which were a general crypto group. Don't cancel me. But at that time, right, 2017, everything, it was sort of that last.
Understandable. Man, I've met so many Bitcoiners around that time. Like, as long as you kind of ditch away from it, you're forgiven.
Yep. I mean, I still, you learn, you sort of learn the hard way. My Dragon Brain Chain and Gollum coins, whatever the hell they fucking were, sort of taught me the lessons I needed to get taught. And then, pretty focused on Bitcoin ever since. Although I say everybody has a shitcoin in their closet, so I'll keep my eye on something else, but much more in a that's fun sort of way. And then what happened meetup wise was the pandemic hit, and everything sort of stopped everywhere. And certainly in San Francisco, we had, I think, stronger lockdowns than other places, and there was just nothing going on. Meanwhile, some friends of mine, Haley and CK, started sort of getting people together out of the beach, or there's a park, Dolores Park, and we were kind of chugging along that way whenever we could. And then there was a little Telegram group that we had, and at some point, I think the frustration of being locked up just kind of got to people, and I forget who it was, but someone on the Telegram group said, "Hey, can we get to fucking together? Can we fucking get together?" And I have a buddy, Tommy, who is a Bitcoiner, happens to own a bar, Aces. And I said, "Hey, can we just meet up at Aces? Let's do a Bitcoin meetup at Aces." He said, "No problem." And that was it. We had probably 15 people roll in, and it was fucking awesome. And I bought a website because you can basically buy and launch a website from your phone. So I just kept clicking yes. I set up the meetup page. A lot of people say, "Oh, are you the organizer?" And I rightfully answer, "I'm just the guy with access to the meetup page." That's what I am. And so we started doing that in San Francisco. That went really well. We were doing it every week at the beginning. It was a little too much, so now we do it every other Wednesday in San Francisco. And then we started expanding it into surrounding areas. So now we have the San Francisco one, and then monthly we have one in the North Bay, Petaluma area, East Bay, Oakland area, Peninsula, South Bay, and Santa Cruz. And I lucked out there, or we lucked out. I was kind of pushing that narrative, right? Sort of setting things up. But I have a wife and I have a kid, and I can't be going to 8 meetups, a month. And so I just reached out to the group and I said, "Would anybody want to help?" And Aaron, Rich, Julie, Tony, Andrew, Tommy were all like, "Absolutely." And so now all of those external ones, sort of the suburban ones, I literally am the secretary. I reach out to them. I say, "When do you guys want to host your events?" They run the whole thing. And it's awesome. Those events are growing too. And that's it. And here we are. It's awesome.
So I lived in Bakersfield, California before moving to Knoxville a few months ago. And I met the first meetup I had up there. Eastside Tony came down and came to the meetup, and man, just what an awesome dude. And he was telling me about the meetups up there. So yeah, I kind of had a little understanding how that was going. It's cool how it's just a central connection. There's also the OC Bitcoin Network, who does a kind of similar thing, and kind of branches the whole Southern California area together. But what would you say is like attendee count's been at most of the meetups?
Yeah. Let me jump back and hopefully I'm not going in the wrong order, but the whole West Coast meetup group up and down has been great. We're all on a little Twitter group. Those guys threw an awesome Christmas party last year that some of us were able to fly down for. It included some people from Arizona, SoCal, and then the OC Bitcoiners, the LA Bitcoiners. Some of the LA Bitcoiners were up at our meetups a couple weeks ago, and then San Diego guys, Long Beach guys. It's been really sort of great. Just that community of itself has been good. That story stunk. You can edit that out. Is this live?
Yeah, it's all good, man.
I'm just kidding.
That's the thing. It's I hope newer meetup organizers will listen to these and just kind of get an idea. Like, oh, maybe this is how I want to do it. Pick and choose. What they want to hear and what they don't. So, this is all about what you guys are doing. So, yeah, by all means, you're good.
As far as attendance, what's funny, Tommy and I talk about it, is as a Bitcoiner, if 2 people showed up, nailed it. I'm going to do it again next time, right? Because at the end of the day, this isn't a money-making endeavor. It's I want to go talk to at least one other Bitcoiner.
Yeah.
And so sort of if you take that attitude, it's super easy and fun. You know what I mean? We do pretty well. We don't have Austin numbers or Houston numbers. Those guys are crazy. But we have about at the San Francisco one, I'd say it's always at least 15, up to 25. And then the same thing goes for the East Bay one, maybe more. Those guys are pushing pretty good numbers. And then all the other ones are probably always around 10 or more. Tony's done some events where he did something at a pizza place, and there was like 40 people that showed up to that. But on the whole, it's usually around those numbers.
Mm-hmm.
It ultimately ends up depending on like the summer impacts, and just where people are and what they're doing, because it's a casual meetup group. So it's not we're not having, it's not like Jack Mahler is showing up and we're having a huge event. So it's as people after work have time to swing by type of deal. So there's ebbs and flows depending what sports on TV and sort of what people are doing. And then additionally, different people running the different groups will handle it differently. Like Tony with the pizza thing, that brought a lot of people in. And then Tommy recently has been starting to introduce something to the meetups. There's a company called 80 Beats. They make it's similar to the Black Box, right? Where they want to sort of incorporate these things into homes and electrical grids. So they brought one there, brought it right down to the bar, plugged it in, had it open up so people could come and look at it. So things like that bring some more or new people. But generally, those are the numbers. So pretty good. I'm happy with it.
Like you mentioned, you're not pulling the Austin or Houston group numbers out here. On the East Coast, people want to pull Nashville numbers. They get a lot of people. And that's just there's 4 meetups out of all the ones running in the country that are pulling numbers like that. Not everywhere is able to do that. So pulling around 20 people is that's a good sized group of meetup for how early we're at, especially with the way price is right now. That's going to scare people off. So to have that kind of group going, some groups are getting together weekly and just pulling together with like 5 people or so, and that's what they're doing, and
which is awesome.
Yeah.
Right? Because again, if you start from the premise, I'm a Bitcoiner who wants to talk to another Bitcoiner, 5 is great. You go get some beers or go get some food or go do whatever. We're also lucky in San Francisco that people want to shit all over California and San Francisco all the time. But at the end of the day, right, we're surrounded by Uber. Sorry, my cat. Uber, Twitter, Facebook, Google, Apple. So we're just surrounded by highly, highly, highly technical people. Which even either the direct, like they could just show up and know what they're talking about, so to speak, or they could or they're sort of tangential, they can follow along. So I think that helps us with our numbers, where if you're I don't know, if you're in Akron, Ohio, I'm making that up, I don't know anything about Akron, but if you're in some other communities, you're just not going to have that pool of people, right? If you're not in a major city, just the population is not there, etc. So we do luck out in that way.
Absolutely, and that's a cool thing that we have here in Knoxville is we got the Y12 facility where they had the Manhattan Project and everything going. So there's a bunch of nuclear engineers around here and stuff, and nuclear people. TVA, the power out here has always been popular. It's been a good, reliable power source out here for quite some years. So we get some pretty technical people as well in different ways that I was expecting. The fact that nuclear engineers, so that especially because of what I do for work, the fact that they're all into it for Bitcoin mining as well. And, just thinking how early we are and the possibilities to come. And I'm so glad my mind has been able to develop in so many different ways. I have a degree in history. I went to a small little private school up in Reading. Man, I've learned so much, and learning so much about the financial system we've been in, just computers in general, how much I've learned. This Bitcoin rabbit hole has been such an awakening for me in so many different ways. And it's because I've relied on just so many average, everyday people to help kind of guide me and introduce me, just the people out there. And like you said, just all those kind of big companies around. Pretty cool stuff that we were able to have access to.
So during that sort of pandemic, we were in a real lull, meaning there was no anything, and so Bay Area Bitcoiners was sort of what was around, which also in some ways also helped us, I think. What was also missing were Socratic seminars and lightning devs. Those were 2 monthly meetups in San Francisco or the surrounding area that I'm happy to say. So I'm helping with Socratic seminars. Casey actually runs it. He's the smart one. I know how to run the meetup page, so that's sort of where I can help. But and Lightning Devs seems to be back. They've had 2 now. So I say that because the Socratic seminars are sort of beyond my expertise. I can follow along. There's actually some topics they talk about that certainly I'm well aware of, and even can maybe know the technical side of it. But I love going because that room, the people that show up there, are it's awesome. I'm in awe of some of the people that we are lucky to have in San Francisco, and I'm often in awe of the conversation as they're, arguing. That's not the right word, but arguing about recursive covenants and their impacts, right? And then talking about I think it's BIP 119. Back to what I started saying earlier, there's sort of the technical conversation of how do recursive covenants work? Are they actually dangerous, right? And sort of the consensus I came out with that day was people who aren't programmers think they are, whereas programmers think they're super useful. And then also Jeremy Rubin and the whole process of trying to introduce change in the Bitcoin protocol and how that really works and where it's dirty and where it's gray. So it was the technical conversation, and then there was sort of that more philosophical political conversation. Those events for me I can't get enough of them. And even though I don't know, I can't contribute. Just by listening and hearing the words sort of over and over and over again, it as things happen later, you start saying, oh yeah, no, Taproot. I remember they were talking about that every month. So learning that way, I think, is great. If you can find a Socratic seminar, even online, those things are perfect.
Yeah. Anytime I listen to podcasts that go along those directions, it's like, holy cow, like I have so much to learn. And that's the cool part. I'm still fairly new to Bitcoin. I just got in February 2021. So just a little over a year. And eventually you kind of get tired of listening to just those intro to Bitcoin podcasts, and you start stepping out, branching out, and you hear some things that are like, I don't know about that, and a little bit too much for where I'm at right now. But I'm a huge fan of the Lightning Network and everything that has, all the potential that has. And anytime I hear people talking about Lightning Network stuff, man, I get so sucked in, even though I have no idea what they're talking about for so long. But I have to listen to it multiple times, and it's been such a learning process for me, all the Lightning stuff. And especially with how Bitcoin's been around for 13 years, and Lightning's been around for what, 4 or 5, and
the thing that I come back to all the time is I keep thinking I'm late to Bitcoin. I think it over and over and over again. So in 2015, I went to a crypto conference, and I walked into a room of 300 people. I said, well, shit, I'm late. Right? I mean, all these people already know what. I mean, I just happened to do it because I happened to see it. It happened to be in San Francisco. Yeah, that'd be fun to check out, get out of the house. I walk into a room, it's 2015. I go, I'm fucking late. Missed the boat on this one. Fast forward, it was 2019 in San Francisco again at the Bitcoin conference, and I had $200 on a Lightning wallet because I thought, right, let's get it on the Lightning and then we can use it at the conference. And I was talking to a guy, a Lightning developer, who actually made the app, designed the app I was using, the Lightning wallet. And he just goes, you have how much? I was like, $200 for the whole weekend. He's just like, oh, okay. Meaning it was still so early because in my mind, the Lightning Network exists. Again, I'm late. There are apps for it. Not realizing that I'm not late. I'm actually very, very current, and sometimes, I don't want to say bleeding edge, but because it's so fast and things are available and you're talking to people, all of a sudden you have an app and it's in beta, but what do you care? And even now with the Lightning Network, like going to these meetups, hearing about the things that they want to add, that when you hear them describe it, it makes so much sense. And I keep remembering like, oh yeah, this thing's brand new. And I'm with you on, I feel pretty confident I can keep up on any technical conversation with Bitcoin itself, the Bitcoin core. Not at a Debbie level, but I can teach somebody how it works. I can understand somebody talking to me about maybe a change in the system. When it gets to Lightning, that's where my brain just starts to melt. I'm like, yeah, it's like an abacus. Imagine little beads on strings. And if my kid were to ask me a question about Lightning Network, I'd be like, I don't know. So that's an area where I want to get stronger on. A book you might read, by the way. Have you read Grokking Bitcoin?
No. What?
So grokking is a term. It's like a term just to like quickly learn. It's a decently technical book. This one isn't about Lightning, but if you're looking to sort of get a meaty understanding from a technical level on how it works, this one is very good.
Okay.
It goes through elliptic curve and private keys and sort of how that works, and it goes through, just walks you along the whole way. It's decently technical, but it tries to tell it through the story of a company that has a cafeteria where this woman sells cookies, and they want to move from a mechanism where we're not trusting and paying Karen. Instead, how do we do that at the company? So they sort of walk you through it in a decent story, but definitely a good one if you're looking to sort of dive in faster.
Dive in a little more. Yeah, absolutely. Hopefully you got it in an audiobook. I still struggle with reading, but yeah, it's man, the Lightning Network, like you said, it's really complicated if you're not spending too much time in it. You may think you know it, and then you just hear somebody else talk about it. It's like, holy cow, I got to go this much deeper down this rabbit hole. And it's like, I still have this much more to learn. Like, I was just starting to feel good about myself. But that's a cool part. Lightning Network, from my base level knowledge that I have of it, I've used it. I've set up a brewery in Bakersfield with a node, and they accept Lightning payments. So I have a good understanding of it all. And, man, just how efficiently it works as it is right now. And to think that it's only going to get better with time, with what Jack Dorsey and Spiral's doing. I love Jack Dorsey and what he's doing for Bitcoin, and I'm super interested in what Spiral's going to do with the Lightning Developing Kit. And yeah, just pretty cool. I remember coming across meetups and like, oh, what's this BitDevs meetup? And I was just thinking, okay, maybe it's some kind of like more towards crypto. And then I started kind of learning about it. And it's like, well, hell, I don't think I'll ever be interested in that. But now with more time that's going on and just my wanting to understand Bitcoin more, I definitely need to check one of those out one of these days.
Yeah, I go. The Bay Area Bitcoiner ones are grab a beer. Who knows who's going to be there? It's, this guy's super technical. This guy works at Casa or Unchained. This guy is just a normal guy who's interested, and it's just sort of a really great hangout. And at the bar we do it at, they put it. It's a sports bar primarily, so it's sports, mempool.
Okay, that's cool.
Bitcoiner walk in. Also, at both of his bars, he's got 2 bars. At both of them, he runs nodes, and so I have to believe that it'd be very rare, but every once in a while, somebody must be like having a drink and just looking over, and finally be like, "Is that a fucking node?" And he'd be like, "Yeah, he's running. I think BTC Pay server somewhere there."
Yeah.
Yeah, I forget what we were talking about. I got excited about
just stores using it and just the people in the groups.
Yeah.
Let's see. What do any of the meetups have like specific structures, or most of them basically just like social kind of time?
Yeah, we're trying to add. Hold on, we're trying. So I like to look at it like sort of holistically, and meaning not just the meetups that not just Bay Area Bitcoiners, right? So if you sort of take a step back and look at the Bay Area, we have on this side is, I'd say, Bay Area Bitcoiners, completely casual. It doesn't matter if you don't know a single thing about Bitcoin. Just show up, right? And at a minimum, have a beer, have a Coke, and then leave if you want. You don't have to know the history of the previous ones. You can skip. You come whenever you want, right? So really open, really encourage new people. Our favorite is when we have any kind of new person who is like, I don't know anything about Bitcoin. That's one of our favorite. It couldn't be better. And then to see who's going to sort of take the lead at orange pilling that person before that beer is done. On the other side is the Socratic seminars, which I'm happy to say are happening again in San Francisco. And those are highly technical, and you're going to have highly technical people there, and sometimes looking at code even, and talking about highly technical issues or cutting edge issues. Sometimes the guy who wrote the paper was in the room. So they're.
Do you have people doing demonstrations or like speaking kind of things at the meetups?
So no, except for coming this August, Bay Area Bitcoiners, we're going to start introducing that sort of middle one, where we're going to have. Right now, our plan is it's going to be it'll be more of a panel style. So Bitcoin education, not quite super technical, but with a format. So there'll be some people in the front of the room, people sitting down. We'll have a microphone. We're going to start with custodial solutions like multi-sigs. We're going to have a representative from Casa and a representative from Unchained, right? And we're just going to, because for no other reason except for sort of strike while the iron's hot. There's a lot of talk about taking your Bitcoin off of the exchanges, taking your Bitcoin out of these sort of yield, creating like a Celsius, right? And so, okay, how do you do that? And so we'll be talking about what are wallets, how do wallets work, how does multi-sig work, what do companies like Casa and Unchained, how do they fit into that ecosystem? So that'll be a more structured event. Hopefully, depending on how it goes, I'd like to have one of those a month as well, right?
Yeah.
So now we have the whole ecosystem. We got the swing by, have a beer. We have the nerd out with the super technical people. And we have that sort of middle ground, like, why don't you learn something? How does the UTXO set work? How do hard wallets work, right? What is consensus mean? Like, what does find out, whatever the topics are.
Mm-hmm.
At that point, I think we're golden out here.
Yeah, absolutely. That'd be awesome for you guys to do that, like once a month event kind of thing. And that's what Nashville does. Once a month, they do, panel style meetup, and just, very educational and just a great experience for anybody, any kind of learner in Bitcoin, whatever level you are. That'd be really cool.
Nashville, because that's where BTC Magazine is.
Yeah.
And Austin, because that is where Unchained is. and many others, right? So both those places have the luxury of being
absolutely
Bitcoin Magazine and Unchained, where people might be visiting for all kinds of reasons. So where the further away you are from that sort of structure, the harder these things become, right?
Yeah.
Where we're in San Francisco, so we'll probably be able to do pretty good, just because of the amount of talent that's around us. But then as you start going further and further away, if you're in Chelmsford, Massachusetts, who's going to be in the front of the panel? That's where it gets hard. If you're trying to run that type of meetup, it just gets tactically difficult because no one's flying into Chelmsford.
Yeah. And that's one thing too, talking with new meetup organizers, if you're not in one of those places, like I'm not in one of those places, I'm close, but still like it's a lot to do to try to get people to come into you. I don't have the funds to be helping out at all. So empower the voices that are around you. There's some really smart people in Bitcoin. At our group, we offer, if anybody wants to, do a little demonstration, talk, speech, whatever, send us a little PowerPoint slide or a little paper with what you want to talk about. We'll look it over and, let you have your time. And we had a guy go over multi-sig at our last meetup. He asked us if he could do a little talk about it. So we were like, yeah, absolutely. We don't want to be the only ones up here. My other guy helping me run it, Connor, he's the one who kind of does all the speaking during it. And so, yeah, we want other people to feel like they have a chance to come and speak. We got a guy in our group who's from Vietnam, and he goes to University of Tennessee, and he's I forget what he's going to school for, but one of his papers he wrote was on proof of stake versus proof of work. And he's been telling me he wants to present it at one of our meetups for a couple of months now. I'm like, well, I want to do it in an organized structure. So when it comes to the mining meetup, I promise you, we will get your chance to, speak. So,
Awesome.
this will be our fourth meetup in a month. We do the fourth Wednesday of every month. And I'm like, okay, Tim, it's finally your chance. Now it's a mining meetup. It's, so we'll get you up there. So I felt bad. I didn't want him to feel left out. I wanted him to have that opportunity. But that's the cool thing is there's that many smart people out there that you can make this a meetup, and you never know who the great next, Matt Odell or Marty Bent or Brian Harrington out there, what he's doing. So many great people out there, obviously. So you never know who the next one is, and I want to try to find that person and give them the opportunity to get their voice heard more.
I'm all in with everything you're saying. So yes, and in our group we have, Paul is got to be one of the more technical savvy. There's never a technical question that he doesn't know the answer to. It's awesome, right? So you just ask Paul, and he, we're always encouraging him. Sometimes he's looking for, if the right Bitcoin job comes up, I think he would take it. But then also he's an audio engineer. Right, so speakers, soundboards, or whatever. And so he's really trying to get involved with events. I think he helped out at BitBlock Boom. I think he helped out at Unconfiscatable. Right, so it's just great. It's great to see. It's great to see that. Right, someone, not becoming Matt Odell in that way, but rising up in the world of Bitcoin where they can sort of find their footing. We got another guy, Scott, who completely bailed on us. He showed up for a little while and was super, super smart. He bailed on us and went to the Charlotte group. So he's dead to us. We don't talk to him. I hope he's listening. And then Casey, who he actually runs the Socratic seminars. He's the one in the front of the room he's just started a podcast called Hell Money, actually, and it's awesome. And I can see him. I feel like we're sort of watching the rise of Casey, where he is trying to bring. He gets jazzed by explaining technical Bitcoin issues for sort of the layman, right? So he has a whole spiel on the UTXO set and how a transaction works using little stickers, cat stickers as public keys and cat stamps as private keys. And at the bar last week, he walked through it, and then he had other people listening create their own transactions, right? Just with a marker, and they're going through the whole process, and they say, okay, now we're looking at the mempool, and it was awesome. So I'm getting people in the group encouraged and a platform to do their thing is great.
Yeah, and so me being in the Bitcoin world as far as job wise, there's not a whole lot of Bitcoiners at the company I work for, and I was very surprised to come to find out that I was one of the few, and I'm the only one at my particular site that I'm at, and it was unbelievable to me at first, and it's still it definitely kind of just drives at me a little bit, like, man, we need to get more Bitcoiners involved in the Bitcoin space and get Bitcoiners in Bitcoin jobs. We need that kind of passion to help get us going early on in this phase. It's such a vital phase in developing and transforming what our future is going to look like. And, especially with these tough times as far as price wise and what's happening in our world, we need some people to really help keep this, all these businesses trying to get involved in the Bitcoin space afloat. So if any Bitcoiners ever listening to this and just think, on that edge, like, man, I really want to get interested, just go freaking do it. And, it's a big sacrifice for sure. I moved across the country to go do it, but there is something different about waking up knowing I get to go work in the Bitcoin space, and especially plugging in and monitoring thousands of miners, and just absolutely unbelievable experience to get to wake up and know I'm one of the few, just how few people are in the Bitcoin space overall in the world, and to think I'm working in Bitcoin this early, just unbelievable. So if you're thinking about it, by all means, go do it. Just jump in, go for it if life presents itself.
Even the non-Bitcoiners, I mean, it sounds like you have them at your company now, they'll slowly get orange pilled. But we talk about, if you are an electrician, and you don't know about Bitcoin, you have no idea that there's this industry where if you don't even need to learn that much, but if you used to learn a little bit about Bitcoin, you're the guy, right?
Yeah.
As they're setting up these data centers, more and more and more of them, right? Having the right power set up, and electricians and other roles like that you wouldn't think when you think about Bitcoin. The first thing you don't think about, you don't think about electricians or data center managers. Like, if you're a Bitcoiner, you do, but if you're one step out, you just don't realize that. I don't know that people realize there are real companies that generate real profit, right? That have an accounting department and an HR department, and they're hiring people. I think a lot of people that are sort of one or two steps away from, let's say, the core group, whatever we want to call ourselves. I guess we're not supposed to call ourselves Maxis anymore. Nick Carter got mad at us.
Wow.
I tell you what, I was with him. I was with him 100% in the. He's a VC. He runs a crypto podcast. He talks about he's a VC. And so got you invest in shit. Totally get it. But then he shit on beefsteaks, which I don't know if you've ever been to a beefsteak. You call it tedious. A beefsteak is the fucking best event in the world. There's beers in coolers, and there's piles of meat that you eat with your hands. That's it. And I was like, tedious? Of all the words, this guy's a wordsmith. Of all the words he could have used to describe, if he wanted to say it was just filled with a bunch of maxis, okay, I'm with you. But he's like, I don't want to go to a tedious beefsteak. That's right. I was like, well, what the fuck? Now I don't like you anymore. Not that he cares if I like it.
I'm all about going to one of those. Give me all the meat.
Oh, they're unbelievable. Yeah, try to get yourself to a beefsteak. They're unfucking believable.
Okay.
Rounds and rounds of meat that come out, and you just eat with your hands. If you don't have a drink in your hand, that's because you didn't walk to the cooler, right? That's it. Yeah.
So what is your favorite kind of Bitcoin rabbit hole to go down? What, to spend your time learning more, what kind of drives you to keep learning about Bitcoin?
I lean into the technical side. Like, if I can find a YouTube video or a podcast that is kind of leaning on the technical side, I find that more interesting than some of the political or philosophical or how money systems work. I enjoy those podcasts, or I enjoy those topics. I just find that I worry now and then that every single Bitcoiner is somehow an expert on economics and federal monetary policies in the course of like 9 months, right? Yeah. I think it's probably a pretty thick. Now, I'm not saying, oh, look at the economy, it's doing great. But I also know, like, I don't know how it fucking works, you know? And so now and then when I go down those roads, I know that it can be much more opinion based. Whereas on the technical side of things, it's sort of much more factual. And so that's where I end up leaning, if possible. I can watch mining. There was this woman, Amanda Fabiano. At Christmas time, she put out like 5 or 6 mining videos on YouTube all in a row. It was like the 5 days of Christmas or something. And I happened to have COVID, so I was stuck at home alone. I could watch stuff like that all day long. Also, I can listen to anything Guy Swan wants to read. I don't care if it's the Yellow Pages. I'm in. I'm 100% in.
Those are pretty damn helpful. You know, as a new Bitcoiner who doesn't like to read, man, thank you for all those.
Yeah. My go-tos are I can listen to, you know, any of the Compass has a great podcast, the Compass Mining podcast. I think that's great. I'll listen to Rabbit Hole Recap on Thursdays. I think that's great. The Swan podcast I think is really good. Peter McCormack's, I can listen to him all day long too. I think he's got great guests. I think those are pretty much my go-tos. Although recently I've gotten to a phase where I used to pick and choose when I'm in the car, like what am I going to listen to? But now I just whatever's next, you know, just come on in and it's going to be good.
Yep, absolutely. So are there any other like current projects, applications coming out that you're looking forward to? Keep an eye out, you know, as far as all the technical talk that you're hearing. What's something that's really kind of getting your eye?
No idea. I mean, and sort of back to what I was saying, like I always love listening to it, right? But if you were to then say, what did they just say? I'd be like, I don't know. You know, it's one step beyond me. What I am curious to watch is when I'm talking to a normie about Bitcoin and trying to sort of, it's hard because depending on who they are, Bitcoin is a very thick subject with many angles and sides, right? So depending on who you're talking to, you're going to choose like which way you're going to present it. Is it freedom money? Is it freedom of speech? Is it banking the unbanked? Is it digital gold? Is it number go up? Right? And depending on, is it like sort of like a libertarian? And depending on who you're talking to, they either care or don't care about the angle. Where I've ended up recently is with a lot of the Jack Muller. I just steal from what he says. And the thing that I found with a lot of my friends is because they're not involved as much, their question will be like, well, what's the utility? Ultimately, like, what do you do with this thing? Sounds great. All the words you're saying sound great, freedom, money, but what do you actually do with it? And so I sort of walk them through a world that I think is going to happen, which is, you know, I have Gmail, you have AOL, they have Hotmail, and we can all email each other. Of course we can, right? Because they're all written to the open protocol. If we wanted to, we could write our own email system that couldn't talk to any other email system, but that would be the stupidest thing. You know what I mean? You would look at me like, well, why did you do that?
Yeah.
Meanwhile, if I have Cash App, you have Venmo, or they have PayPal, we all just like, oh yeah, I guess we're fucked. And that just all is normal for us for some reason, where we're really, they could behind the scenes be kind of using a strike-like technology, right? Where they're flipping the dollar, using the Bitcoin rails to shoot that somewhere and then flipping it back, right? So now all of a sudden I'm just sending it, you know, to you, you know, Shane at Venmo from my Cash App. And on the front side, on the UX side, it's still Cash App. It's still Cash App, it's still dollars, It's all branded the way it needs to be branded. Behind the scenes, though, the technology they're using, I don't know what technology they use today. So behind the scenes, they move over to a Bitcoin sort of open standard. They're moving it faster. They're moving it more cheaply. And now these things all talk to each other, which at that point, it doesn't matter if Bitcoin goes to 50,000 to 500,000 and back down to 50 for their use case. Doesn't matter. They're just using the payment rails. That, I think, is that's a thing that I want to see. How does that technology grow? Does it go that direction? Because that's when you sort of talk to people, you walk them through email and they say, oh, yeah. Right. And then you jump over to the Cash App, Venmo, you're like, does that make sense? And all of a sudden you kind of see that. They're like, no, it doesn't make sense. And then you can walk them through this use case that it doesn't matter if number go up, right? You remove that from the conversation and you just talk about the technology that anyone can build on. I think that is a you don't have to go too deep. It doesn't have to be too technical. And you can like quickly eliminate, like you don't have to worry about number go up. And Cash App can still be Cash App. They can still run their business in their business way, right? You're not trying to say Bitcoin's gonna behind the scenes it's taken over. So that's kind of, I guess, the one technical area that I'd say I'm interested to see how it plays out.
Yeah, after Mallard's made that announcement, I took a screenshot of all those businesses that you'll be able to do that. And whenever I'd go, before I'd go shopping, I'd be like, okay, is this a place? I'm going to ask if I can do that yet. And they're just like, huh? Like what? And I'm like, okay, guess not.
Right.
But yeah, how awesome that'll be to use that, and just, I am beyond looking forward to that. Just being able to use Bitcoin more frequently. I really want to start having more, auto converted through my direct deposits and just, living on a Bitcoin standard. People got different opinions on that, but I mean, if my checks are coming in as Bitcoin, everything's in price and sats essentially. And so just, when that happens, that will be very fascinating to see. And that's just, think about how many more people are going to have touches with that. Just how many more people are going to be engaged with conversations over that. And just so exciting what that's going to do as well. So I'm a huge maxi on the Lightning Network. It's, it's a huge interest of mine for sure. So I as well am looking forward to that.
Yeah. Someone needs to, I did with some friends, but someone more important than me needs to create a real point of sale or a real point of sale integration that allows for tipping. Because when you look at BTC Pay Server, when you look at OpenNode, or tools like that real local businesses could employ to sell beers, to do their thing. If you're a farmer's market, it's great, right? Beep, bop, boop, take the money and either convert it to dollars if that's your thing or keep it as Bitcoin. But when you start looking at little restaurants or bars, now the bartender's not getting tipped out, right? Or the waitress isn't getting tipped out. And none of these products yet have the UX to handle that. Because I think a lot of them are built for online, right? Online transactions so this is a call to whoever's working on these projects. We took, a buddy of mine has a point of sale system and we were just fucking around, me, him, and another buddy. We integrated into the point of sale system, OpenNode and BTC Pay Server, right? And so if the person using it, right, would go to the setup, let's say, and they'd set up their address and set up their products and set up, it could run a real store. And then in there, what's your credit card terminal information? And you hook that up. What's your BTC Pay Server or what's your OpenNode API? And so then when you get to the checkout screen, it just says, like, how do you want to pay? Do you want to pay with cash? There's a cash drawer. Do you want to pay with credit card? Do you want to pay with Bitcoin? So then if you hit Bitcoin, it brings up generates the QR code from the OpenNode, let's say, API. But then we just added a button, right, that you could add a tip the way you would add a tip. And then it refreshes, it just does another call. But I haven't seen anyone else do that. And I just think it's such a tactical, right? If you could go into a bar and say, right, you convinced whoever you convinced to do it, but the staff ultimately, you know what I mean? The staff,
Yeah.
if someone just adds tipping, so hopefully someone sees it, just add tipping.
BTC Pay Server has tipping.
Ah, well, fuck.
Yeah, they have tips on there. So I've seen it. I've set it up with it, and it's, you could customize it. It'll do the 15, 20, 25%, whatever. It's on there.
Oh, great. I'm going to get back. All right, I'm going to call Tommy after this.
Yeah.
I thought that was what was holding us up.
No, you'll be good. So it adds it onto that final transaction QR code. So
perfect. I'm actually glad we had this talk, because I for sure thought it wasn't out there.
Yep. Oh yeah. No, that's the thing. BTC Pay Server, man, what an awesome. That's the one I set the brewery up with lengthwise. What an awesome, POS for someone to use. You can go in, see all the transactions on a nice format. It's clean, easy to use, and ultimately, with time, it's just going to keep getting better.
Yeah.
So,
well, that's what's great. That's the thing. The hard thing with, I'll keep saying normies for lack of a better word, is, their question. I mean, right now, I mean, you too. How many times has someone, a non-Bitcoiner, be like, "Hey, how you doing? How's Bitcoin going?" Right? And what they're asking is, why did the price drop? I don't know. For me, I just like to look. If you look at the lows, the yearly lows, it's a pretty smooth line. Now and then it's flat. And for me, the question is not why did it drop to 20? It's why did it hit 67? Those weird peaks are what's weird. If you just look at the lows, it just climbs up. and so whenever they say, how's Bitcoin doing? My answer is it's doing fucking great, right? Because everything I said about Bitcoin last year to them or the year before to them is like data bit by data bit the exact same. Right, it's doing every single thing it was doing before, but then BTC Pay Server gets a little better. These, cold wallets get a little easier. These third-party service providers, Casa and Unchained, have more things that help more people. And the Lightning Network is, the watchtowers are coming, and Taproot's getting implemented. It's just these very small, very boring to an outsider, very slow progression, but fast forward a year, you were here, now you're here. Fast forward a year, you were here, now you're here. And so, how's Bitcoin doing? It's doing fucking great. I don't know what the price is, but it's doing great. So just hold on, get into the car. You're still early. Put your seatbelt on and just wait.
Yeah, I've actually made a trip, my first trip back home to California. I went to a cousin's wedding, and a lot of family who I haven't seen in a while. And so they heard about my job. I didn't necessarily let them know personally. They heard through my family. And so they're like, hey, oh, well, with how Bitcoin's doing, like, how's your job going? And just all those kinds of questions. So they definitely hear when, price is down. But also, me getting this job is one of those touches for my family members. And that's a cool part too. I have an uncle who does very well for himself. And so he sat down with me, had a little buzz on. So Bitcoin, and so I got to sit down and orange pill him and talk to him about everything. And that's a great person to have on board, and possibly one day. And just what a cool opportunity. And it all depends on your perspective. If you know Bitcoin, you're going to be loving what's going on right now. I love $5,000 or 5,000 sats for $1. I never thought I was going to see this price. I got in when it was around 50. So I am absolutely drooling. What an incredible opportunity. And that's what I tell people too. Right. Some coworkers are like, so why is this going on? What do you think of it? And I was going to say, well, I think Bitcoin's presenting the best or great opportunities for its users. And they're just like, you sound like you should be in Congress or something. And, just like, but truly, it is a great opportunity for anybody new, if you could see through the fog of smoke, I butchered that phrase, but, just wow, what an opportunity. And I remember last year around April and May, it dropped down to the low 30s. And I was like, holy cow, like that, what an opportunity then. And to think we're getting this now, just so grateful for it. But
we're
that's
the
the
only
thing.
we're the only people in the world that like the thing we're into. Our dream would be that we woke up tomorrow and it was $3,000, right? We would immediately hop on Twitter. Is there any functional issue? Did something functionally break? Was there a hack? As soon as we find out the answer to that question is no, like, what child do I have to sell to go get more of this shit, right? Where if Tesla or Apple or Google were to drop like that, people would be crying. What happened? We'd just be like, holy shit, go!
Yeah. Oh yeah. It's
Right?
that meme, with like you got the guy walking down the street, everything's blowing up behind him. Just yeah, and Bitcoiners have such a different view of what's happening in our world right now. We're so in touch with everything going on and just open to different ideas. And it is fun watching us make fun of Clown World. I get to go, and I remember my mom got me heavy into political stuff when COVID first started happening, and went down that rabbit hole for a while, and then elections happened, and I was just like, holy cow, like, what's this going to mean for our world? And kind of started feeling hopelessness. And then luckily I got orange pilled from my neighbor down the street, and man, I have hope now. I am so excited for what's in store for the future. I'm ready for this crap that we're going through right now to be over with. I'm sick of it. I was from where California, so watching what you guys went through up there, and I mean Bakersfield, we had it too for a while, and just wearing the face diapers and everything. Just man, it sucks. I'm over it. I'm done with all this. I'm done with all these powerful political figures, and just a kind of world that can be brought because of Bitcoin. That's what I want. The humanity reasons, the humanity aspect of Bitcoin. What a beautiful world we could be in here shortly, though.
Yes. The only thing I don't like is the Citadel concept. I don't know that I want to live in a castle surrounded by a moat. That's where. But what I was thinking back to the conversation with your uncle. I love some of my favorite normie conversations are with someone who's smart, who what it ultimately is like removing all the wrong things they know about Bitcoin. You know what I mean? And like with a guy like that, the very first thing I'm going to do is separate crypto from Bitcoin. Yep. I can't do that fast enough, right? And I verbalize. I go, listen, if you want to get something for your granddaughter when she graduates college, it's Bitcoin. If you want to go gambling with your brother at the horse track, it's crypto, and good for you. You can make a lot of money doing that, right? But immediately separate it and then just start unwinding, whatever it is. They pick up these bad habits, you know what I mean, in terms of Bitcoin understanding, right? Like, people only buy drugs with it, and it's like, actually, the last thing you want to do if you kidnap somebody is use Bitcoin. You want to use Monero, right? It's completely private. So go ahead and use Monero for kidnapping people. Don't use Bitcoin. And they're like, what? Kind of start like walking them through. Like, it's a fucking transparent ledger. Like, what do you want me to tell you? Those are some of my favorite conversations, especially if you're at a wedding and you had some drinks. I bet it was awesome.
Oh yeah. No, it's cool. Yep. That's the most important part. You got to distinguish the Bitcoin from crypto, from the get-go. Hey, there's all these other things, and they all want to be Bitcoin. Bitcoin's price is where it's at for a reason. All these other ones just want to imitate it. And everybody, what I like too, like it's, get in their mind. It's not a share. You're not investing in a share to return back to US dollar. Like you're transforming your money into a new, harder, better money, and you won't have to go back. Once it's there, you just leave it for now. Save it for your kids. And then I started getting into the mining FUD and kind of rebuting that with him, and that kind of started opening his eyes more too. So just what an opportunity that we get to go around and provide a space that at our meetups and everything. And that's what I love is yeah, maybe a bunch of hardcore Bitcoiners right now. We don't necessarily get a ton of new people at ours, maybe one or two. But for the most part, everybody knows Bitcoin, or they're being dragged along by their husband or boyfriend. And I really can't wait for the day that new people start coming more, and we get to provide more of an educational experience at these meetups. And to think, like, what the meetups can turn into in the future, and just being that local hub of everything you need Bitcoin, because we were here for you, when you weren't, but everybody gets the price they deserve. And now that you're here, we are glad you're here. So I'm really looking forward to that day when I wanted to be a high school history teacher before getting into Bitcoin. And so I still have that kind of passion for wanting to educate people. So that's a huge thing that I love about the meetups is if I do get that opportunity to speak with somebody new and provide them with a new educational experience, love that. And what's even better is when I get that new educational experience from somebody else. And that's the great part about meetups is you're always going to be able to develop your understanding of Bitcoin a little bit more each meetup you go to.
I mean, my favorite is when there's a new person who wants to learn about Bitcoin. I think it's the greatest thing to watch and see. Again, I said earlier, but like who in the group is going to start talking to them and how they sort of like walk them through. I joked about Scott. He did bail on us to go to the Charlotte group. The Charlotte group, they hosted me when I was out there. So they have actually a real good thing going. But I'm going to still hold a grudge against Scott. But there was a woman who showed up to a meetup, and her premise was that she was late. It's too late to the game. And Scott just grabs her and goes, "Have you ever heard of an internet meetup?" And she goes, "No." He goes, "Right, it sounds stupid, huh?" He goes, "But 30 years ago, there was a bunch of nerds getting together to talk about this crazy communication protocol called the internet. And like, what could you build on it and how would it work and all this stuff. But to say it now, that sounds stupid." He goes, 30 years from now, you're going to tell people you're at a Bitcoin meetup. You're one of those people." And you can just like see her face be like, "Oh shit, maybe I'm not late." It was awesome. It was perfect. And watching things like that are the best. I was at a San Diego meetup they do it at Quantum Brewery, and they had speakers talking about different things, and it was great. It was a real good crowd. And then all of a sudden, in the back of the room, sort of after the speakers, this woman gets up and like stands up on her seat, kind of, and says, "I love what you guys are talking about. I can't follow along with all of it, And she was just a complete normie, and goes, I don't even know how to use a wallet, and where can I go to learn how to use a wallet?" 4 people, like you could see the room get immediately excited. Yep, they're like, and you could see her be like, "Wait, you mean you guys will show me?" And like they're like, "Absolutely. Absolutely, we'll show you." It's a great question. It was perfect. It was absolutely perfect.
Man, I wish that would happen more often. I wish people would speak up more. That's awesome. That's what the meetups are for. They're for you to go learn. Go there, ask questions, and get involved. Don't just sit behind and be all quiet and awkward. Get involved, talk to some people, see what you can learn.
At our last meetup, Casey was actually doing that UTXO thing, like showing people how the UTXO set works and showing people kind of how private keys work. And there was a guy, and he says, "But so if I was going to buy Bitcoin with $20 from, they were pretending, right, from Bob here." And all of a sudden he said, "So when do I know if it's okay to actually hand over my $20? And it was just, that's the right question. You can wait 6 blocks, but it's only 2, and just like leading him, like, great question, and leading him through those answers. And then all of us are now sort of talking about, well, what about this? What about that? And it led to this great education for that guy, but then ultimately just a real fun conversation for all of us. Anytime a normie who wants to learn shows up, even a shitcoiner, I'm happy to have a shitcoiner as long as they're respect. Like sometimes shitcoiners are shitty at meetups, but other times they actually do want to learn. And those, they're great too, right? Because someone all of a sudden is like, I hope a shitcoiner comes to your meetup when the Vietnamese guy is there, and the shitcoiner is like, "No, proof of stake's the best," and he's just like, "Oh, I got
There's a difference between shitcoiners and those who've just been misled,
Right.
and those are pretty easy to determine. I've had some guys from the XRP army come after me pretty hard in reality. So, you can spot them out when you know which ones they are.
Yeah. Yeah, there's shit coining, and then there's people who like to invest in crypto or think the technology's neat or like NFTs, right? And they're great. Come on in, let's hang out. I'll ask you a question about the NFTs, but yeah, when you get the wrong person, that can either sour the meetup or make it real fun, because it's like, hey, Brian, I just want to let you know there's about 10 people that are about to like eat you up. So you got to figure out what you want to do. Maybe just grab a beer.
Absolutely. Well, just to kind of start wrapping things up here, any other final thoughts on the Bitcoin space and just another opportunity to kind of show your group and how to get in touch with you?
Yep. I'm excited. I'll tell you, I'm going to. Are you going to Big Block Boom?
No, I'm not. After moving across country and everything, I sold everything. Just I had to get involved in Bitcoin, and so I'm working on the recovery process of all that.
Yeah, sure. So that I'm excited to go to that. I haven't been for a couple of years, so I'm excited. Hopefully, I see people down there that I haven't seen for a while.
I'm sure you will.
Out here, if you're in the Bay Area, either in San Francisco itself or in any of the surrounding sort of suburbs, we are Bay Area Bitcoiners. We are on Meetup. We're on Twitter, Bay Area BTC, I think, but you can find us on there. Keep an eye out for our regular meetups, which are listed probably all the way out to August, maybe September right now. Additionally, keep an eye out for, we're going to start, like I said, the educational ones. In August, I think it's going to be August 17th, the Wednesday. We'll have Casa and Unchained there talking about multi-sig, cold storage, things like that. And then also we have both Lightning Devs and Bit Devs are hosting their meetups, the Socratic Seminar and the Lightning Devs meetup. So for more technical meetups, take a look at those things. And that goes really anywhere. Look for if you have the opportunity to get yourself to a Bit Devs, even online, I highly recommend it just as a listener. So you can find me. I'm Billy MacDo on Twitter. So if anybody wants help starting a meetup, I can sort of tell you everything that we did and give you my suggestions, which are just another guy making a meetup. But I'm happy to talk to anybody definitely about starting a meetup. So
yeah, absolutely. And that's the thing, you go to the meetups that have been around for a little bit and just ask for help. And that's what I did starting mine. And everybody's been so willing to help, such great people. And that's why I wanted to do this podcast, is help Meetup organize a different breed of Bitcoiners, and generally just people, I enjoyed talking with and being around. So I want to get to know more of you guys. So Billy, it's been awesome. Great getting to know you and hearing what you guys are doing out there with the Bay Area Bitcoiners. So thank you for coming on here. And
thanks for having me. Let me know when you're out in the Bay Area. Come hang out. And if you're back here visiting the family, you got to land in SFO, come to some meetups, and then drift on out to Bakersfield.
I will always keep it in mind. So nice talking with you, and we'll definitely keep up here. I'll be back with you here in a minute. Okay.
Yep. Later, dude.
All right. Anyways, that was Billy from Bay Area Bitcoiners, just talking about what's going on the West Coast and what they're doing with their meetup groups. So thank you for joining us. We are going to be back here on next Saturday with Cascadia Bitcoin Group out in Washington, the Northwest Washington area. So thank you for joining us. We're on Apple, Spotify, YouTube, and you can follow us on Twitter, KBN, Hard Money, Hard Knox, and Knoxville Bitcoin Network. So thanks for joining us.